From discarded Stone Age artifacts to the disturbing remnants of a brutal World War I battle, here are 10 of the strangest things found frozen in ice. Hidden treasure. Everyone wants to find hidden treasure. Unfortunately, this is something that doesn't normally happen, but in 2013, an anonymous mountain climber stumbled upon a small box that contained 100 precious jewels, including emeralds, rubies, and sapphires. A mountain climber, can you believe it? According to a report by the BBC, the small box that this mountain climber found was worth roughly $300,000. The man found the box frozen in the ice on Mont Blanc in France, but the story gets even crazier. Apparently, the box actually came from an Air India flight that crashed on the very same mountain way back in January of 1966. The crash took the lives of 117 passengers, but not everything was recovered because it had crashed so high up in the mountains. While bits of the wreckage had been found over the years, the box of jewels had remained hidden frozen in the ice for over 50 years. That's really sad. But what makes this story really extraordinary is that the mountain climber actually turned the jewels over to the authorities. He found a box of actual jewels and simply walked up to a police officer and gave it back. What do you think? Was he honest or foolish? And what would you have done in his place? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you liked this video, there are many more where it came from. You won't want to miss out. Iron Age artifacts. Global warming is having some pretty strange effects on the Earth. With all this ice melting, so many artifacts that were previously lost are now being revealed. Some of these artifacts are from as far back as the Iron Age. It has been reported that with Norway's glaciers quickly melting, archaeologists have found over 2,000 artifacts alone from the Iron Age, thawed out of the ice. The artifacts range dramatically from simple tools to lost robes, and the reason the area is so densely populated by artifacts is because it was once a popular thoroughfare for ancient humans. This was at a time when people would cross back and forth over the mountains, moving their livestock depending on the changes of the seasons. While most of the artifacts have been pretty standard items such as arrowheads and horseshoes, scientists have found more interesting things like mittens and even a tunic that was dated back to between AD 230 and AD 390. Supposedly, the tunic was found wadded up and covered in ancient horse manure. As you may have guessed, it looks like our ancient ancestors didn't care much about leaving their litter in the road. Fish eating fish. Some things found in the ice are strange, some of them are scientifically outstanding, and some are just fun. A recent discovery by two brothers who were fishing in Wawasee Lake in Indiana has taken the internet by storm. These two brothers found a fish frozen in the ice right in the middle of its meal. I'm not sure how it happened, but it looks like the temperature dropped just as the fish was about to take a bite out of another fish. There is even video footage showing what they found. It appears to be a pike in the middle of chomping down on a bait. This is one of those things you really wouldn't believe unless you saw the video. The best explanation that has been given is that the pike choked on the bass while trying to stuff it down its throat and then died, and then later on both fish were eventually frozen solid. Talk about biting off more than you can chew. This is definitely a cautionary tale to all the fish and all the people out there who have eyes bigger than their stomachs. Lake Vostok. Lake Vostok is another example of the incredible landscapes buried beneath the ice of Antarctica. Back in 2012, a team of Russian scientists drilled through about 2 miles, 3 kilometers of ice and found something quite unexpected. Rather than drilling into more ice, scientists discovered Lake Vostok, the biggest subglacial lake on the continent. And yes, it seems like something that should not exist. A liquid lake frozen beneath miles of ice seems a little fishy, but it's actually pretty normal in Antarctica. What is really extraordinary about Lake Vostok is that it has been completely isolated for millions of years encased in the ice. And after scientists analyzed samples from the water, they found bacteria totally unlike any other we are familiar with. This is a little disturbing, as many people fear if they continue to extract unknown bacteria that has been frozen in the ice for millions of years, scientists could unwittingly unleash the next plague that sweeps across the earth and kills billions of people. If it were up to me, I would urge them to stop drilling just to be safe. What do you think though? Could there be a super pandemic lurking in a time capsule from millions of years ago under the Antarctic ice cap? Let me know in a comment. Graveyard of the fish lizards. Dinosaurs are always one of the most exciting parts of scientific history. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Of course, ice dinosaurs sound even cooler. Every dinosaur find is exciting in its own way, but a recent Cretaceous graveyard discovery perfectly preserved inside of a glacier down in Chile is an absolutely astonishing find. According to Live Science, international researchers at the Torre del Paine National Park in Chile uncovered 46 fully complete specimens of Cretaceous animals known as ichthyosaurs. These bizarre creatures lived between 100 and 150 million years ago and were a bizarre mix of lizard and fish. Think about a crocodile mixed with a dolphin. These were some seriously bizarre creatures with insatiable hunger. The largest of all the skeletons were discovered to be more than 16 feet, 5 meters in length. That is way longer than your average dolphin. Not only were their fossils discovered, but because of how well preserved the fish lizards were in the glacier, scientists even discovered soft tissue and embryos. The researchers believe it was a massive accident that ended up burying these creatures in sediment, and then the glacier would have frozen over them. It could have been that the entire group of fish lizards were caught in an avalanche. As an interesting side note, the ichthyosaurs actually went extinct during the global depletion of oxygen, a terrifying event that wiped out a lot of the species on Earth even before the famous meteor strike wiped out the dinosaurs. Otzi the Iceman. There's nothing stranger to find frozen in the ice than an actual human person. His name is Otzi, and he was discovered by two hikers when they were on holiday in Austria in 1991. When they first discovered the man frozen in ice, the two holiday makers reported him as being the victim of a mountaineering accident. But they had no clue that the man that they had just discovered was extremely ancient. Radiocarbon dating places Otzi at being frozen somewhere around 3300 BCE. For those who don't want to do the math, that's about 5300 years ago, making Otzi a very real frozen caveman. Since his discovery in 1991, Otzi has been studied a lot. It turns out that he has somewhere around 19 relatives currently living in Austria, with a bloodline passed down through 5,000 years. Studies also showed that he had a pretty rough time when alive. He suffered from gallstones, gum disease, frostbite, and he likely had Lyme disease. But he also had a lot in common with us. Apparently, Otzi was covered in tattoos. He even carried with him some souvenirs. Alongside his body was found an axe that was carried all the way from Tuscany, hundreds of miles from the spot where he crawled into a cave and died. It looks like our ancient ancestors were much closer to us than we may have thought. Warriors of the White War. One of the most brutal battles fought in World War I, or in fact in any war ever, was known as the White War, and it happened high up in the Italian Alps with temperatures that were way below freezing. As reported by Daily Mail, the fighting in the Alps went on for more than 3 years and killed over 1 million people, but because of the frozen conditions, the bodies were mostly lost to the ice. However, hot summers in northern Italy are causing the ice up in the Alps to melt, and this is causing the mummified bodies of soldiers to be revealed throughout the landscape. Basically, every time there is a hot summer, more and more bodies are found mummified who had died in the brutal 3-year campaign. What makes this story even more disturbing is that archaeologists must act very quickly to procure the bodies, but not for a reason you might think. You see, opportunistic thieves have been coming across the bodies and looting them of any potential souvenirs. This takes robbing the dead to a whole new degree of disgraceful. The Grasshopper Glacier. Montana is famous for more than just its delicious food. In this state, you can find some of the most beautiful glaciers and ice fields in the world, and you will also find a place known as Grasshopper Glacier, an enormous glacier over a mile long, 1.5 kilometer, and a half a mile, 0.75 kilometers wide. It's located outside Cook City and is absolutely ripe with millions and millions of frozen grasshoppers. In an analysis of some grasshopper specimens taken from the glacier in 1914, scientists confirmed that the grasshopper species had already been extinct for about 200 years. Scientists think that the swarm had been passing through the mountains when they were caught in a dangerous snowstorm. The grasshoppers then died and were subsequently frozen inside the glacier, where they have stayed ever since. If you're a person who has lived in the American Midwest or even in the prairies, you will know how big of a nuisance grasshoppers and locusts can be. They are much better off frozen in ice than ruining crops. At least these ones can contribute to science. Hidden mountains. If you try to picture Antarctica in your mind, you will probably picture a flat landscape of frozen ice and snow. But this is actually an optical illusion. Buried beneath the countless miles of ice are all kinds of incredible features. One of the most impressive is an enormous mountain range almost completely submerged by ice. It's known as the Gamburtsev Mountains, and scientists have known about it for quite some time. The mountain range is buried under roughly 1 mile of ice, and so it's obviously been a little hard to study. However, according to Live Science, recent advances in our imaging technology have allowed scientists to look beneath the ice, and they were extremely surprised to discover not just one mountain range, but a series of mountains with peaks that rose to be upwards of 10,000 feet high. The mountains sprawl for about 750 miles, but the impressive range is almost completely invisible hidden beneath the ice. Now that's a mountain range no climber will ever conquer. Anthrax outbreak. The number one discovery from under the ice is surprisingly quite similar to the bacteria entombed in Lake Vostok. In 2016, a terrible heat wave thawed a lot of the ice in western Siberia. With the ice thawed, many buried secrets were revealed. One of the more dangerous finds was a reindeer carcass that had been frozen for at least several decades. According to CNN, this reindeer had been infected with anthrax at the time of its death. Almost immediately after the infected reindeer was thawed from the ice, about 1,200 reindeer living in the area quickly perished. Scientists think that the reindeer died because of the infected carcass, but also passed on the anthrax to roughly 15,000 nomadic people in the area. This was no minor outbreak. Around 40 people were hospitalized because of symptoms of anthrax. This wasn't any normal anthrax either. According to news sources, it was weaponized anthrax. The Russian government had to dispatch biological warfare specialists to contain the outbreak. This is just another cautionary tale of what happens when an unknown virus, or in this case old anthrax, thaws from the ice. Even an accident could have major worldwide repercussions. What happens if the plague comes back? Humanity itself could be at risk. What other strange things will be uncovered in the ice in the future? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for all the newest videos. See you again soon.